Hey everyone, welcome to Coffee Compete, the show about news, gossip, and tactics of competitive business strategy. As always, brought to you by Klue. I'm Adam McQueen, and today we've got a very, very, very special guest. It's none other than the founder of Productive PMM. It's Jason Oakley. Oaks.
Thanks for having me. I feel like I tried to pitch, I really pitched Grayson on having me on the show to share some examples. Grayson, thanks for letting me come.
And he has a rigorous screening process, Grayson does. So the fact that you slipped through to and getting on the show, that's a testament to what you bring to the show. And if anyone knows Oakley, he brings product marketing examples in his newsletter, on social. They're the best. I love looking at specific examples for inspo. And it's exactly what we're going to get into today. But before we do, quick housekeeping. For those of you listening, we have Klue Quarterly coming up on, I believe, February 27th, where we'll be unveiling a bunch of the new functionality coming with Klue. So roadmap for 2025, as well as new releases and things that are coming down the pike. So if you're interested in that at all, which you should be because there's a lot of cool stuff coming, sign up for Klue Quarterly on February 27th. I think that's everything I got on housekeeping, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. Oaks, we're doing competitive marketing examples. You've brought one to the table. I have one. As the guest, I want you to lead off. What is your example here?
So my example is PostHog. My favorite company when it comes to their marketing in general, product marketing and messaging and all that, would probably be Basecamp, because I just think Basecamp is so good in the way that they write, the point of view that they have on things, their like mentality, even when it comes to how they run their business. But PostHog, for me, like came on my radar maybe about a year ago, I guess. And they have so many similarities. Like all the things I like about Basecamp, I really love about PostHog. And they're just very like genuine, their content and just their messaging and everything's just very honest. And they sell to developers, like engineers. And so they also are probably pretty smart in knowing that their audience is people who care about things like honesty, not being marketed to, right? Like all of these types of things. And so PostHog, if you go to their website, which I believe is just posthog.com, you'll notice this right away. And so there's a lot of things that even in PMM files, there's multiple PostHog things I've shared. But the cool thing and the thing that I brought to this here is their why PostHog page. And so thinking about like competitive marketing examples, I think that, when you think competitive marketing, one of the things you initially think about is comparison pages, which would be like us versus, right? Like PostHog versus, I don't know, Mixpanel, these direct comparison pages where it's you versus direct competitor. There are all kinds of different competitive pages that you can make. And I think that this why us page is something that I feel like a few years ago, you would have seen this pretty often on pages, but I haven't seen it as much lately. But PostHog has this type of page. It's the first one in their nav. So you can tell it's pretty important for them. And why I like it and why I think it works for them is because PostHog now has 10 or more products. They are building a platform of multiple products. They want to be the one platform you'll go to that engineers will go to with all the products that they need. And because of that, they have all kinds of direct competitors, right? They would have all kinds of different direct comparison pages, and who knows, they might have them. I didn't kind of check too deep. But the why PostHog page is great because if you are a broad platform and you are trying to position your platform, not the individual products, and those are both different strategies, right? You could be like, your go-to-market could be focused on individual products for individual people and use cases. But their why PostHog page is saying, hey, it's how they position their broad platform. And in this page, you could see it's very clear on why PostHog versus buying multiple point solutions. So they're saying our platform versus going and buying everything piecemeal, right? And so I'm going to go down and just kind of touch on a few of the things I really like about this page. And Adam, you can feel free to stop me whenever you want.
I'll chime in.
All right. So at the top, one of the things that they start with right away, and I do think you see this a lot with platform positioning, is, hey, it's price, right? If you have everything in one platform, a lot of the times you probably will be able to offer a cheaper price because it's all in one. But they call out very clearly that they compete very heavily on price. So they say that, it's great to have everything in one place, but only if you're getting a deal. So they say PostHog is always cheaper than the cheapest major competitor. And since you know that, you don't have to compare on price. So the way that they write it almost makes me feel that if I found someone who was cheaper, I could even just go to PostHog. Maybe they'd match it. I don't really know, but it I feel like they have the cheapest price, and they call out the fact that, people who have all-in-one platforms don't always offer the cheapest price, but they call out the fact that they have that. They also call out that they have a generous free tier. So you can always try it out before paying anything at all. And they call it out a few different times on this page that even our free tier, you get a ton. And even the call to action at the end calls out the free tier. So right away, they hit you with we're all in one. We have multiple products, all the products you'll need, and they're the cheapest. The other thing is they compete a lot on their brand, and it's not their like design and that sort of thing, although that is pretty cool. If you go to their site, you'll love their brand. But for them, brand is like their reputation, right? So they have a number of things that kind of back up why people love them as a brand. And a couple of things is, one is that they're not very salesy, right? So they talk about the fact that they don't have an outbound sales team. So it's inbound only, right? They also talk about the fact that they've done price decreases. So they said they've rolled out price decreases across their entire existing customer base, which is something you don't see all that often. And it makes you feel like you can trust them. And I think a lot of what their brand gives off is things like, you can trust us. We know what we're talking about, right? We treat customers with respect. We're here to help you, right? So a couple of other things is they even have something that's called side hustle insurance. So people who go and use these dev products, they might be builders, creators, right? Like people who are building products and businesses. And sometimes you get picked up by something like, TechCrunch, or you get picked up by, what was the one in particular they'd mentioned? Hacker News, right? And if you get picked up by those, you might blow up. And because their pricing is based on usage and it scales, they basically have what they call side hustle insurance, so you don't get dinged, which is really cool. And it just goes to show they care about like the creators, and they know them. They know what matters. They call out their honest content, which I think is really big too. The fact that their content is just written with normal language. It is very accessible, and it's just easy to understand. And they don't have a ton of marketing speak. And then the last thing is that they call out the fact that this is our life's work. And so a lot of companies, I would, in a lot of cases, they're there to get acquired. Maybe they're just on a race to go public. It's all about like that cash out. But I think that for them, they call it the fact that it's our life's work. It really feels like they're playing the infinite game, and they're here for the long run, which again makes you trust them more and think they're a company that you want to work with. And even if, at the end of the day, that's not true forever, I just think that, there's something to be said about a company that you can feel like they truly love what they're doing. And so all those reasons really, in my opinion, create this idea of a brand and a reputation that I'd want to work with, which I think is a big thing.
I think it's interesting you mentioned that, because like you read that first line, and I think there's something around, I think trustworthiness as a brand concept is like the way in which you achieve that has to be pretty like thoughtful. Because just saying, hey, we are trustworthy and we don't use marketing speak, like you could have that line in here, which they do. Right. But it almost still is kind of like, are you really trustworthy if you had to say it like that? But those subtle pieces that you mentioned there around, this is our life's work, we're going to be here fighting this fight for a long, long time. Those are like the subtle pieces that really actually feel like trustworthiness, even like the pricing piece as well. Because it's like, yeah, if you're really trustworthy, you wouldn't just say it out loud. That would almost have my like red flags detecting. And it's those other pieces around here too that I'm like, okay, you know what? There is some like trust building going on there. What's your take on, as a product marketing expert, you've built many of these comparison pages, product pages, why-us pages. What's your thought on leading with this kind of price component? It's something that's not typically seen in these kind of pages at all.
Yeah, it's I think if you are truly trying to, like, if part of your positioning is price, then I think you own it. And that's one of the notes I had here, is that they just own it. And I think that it probably comes from them knowing their customer as well, right? And I think that through their market research, through them talking to customers, and knowing that, yeah, if you are going to try and buy these different point solutions, they do get really expensive, right? And they probably just have learned that, hey, one of the big benefits we can offer is that it's super convenient to have them all in one, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper too. And I think that not only that, but they're like, if you just want to buy, because you can, if you're on their website, you can buy their products for, like, individual products, just on their own. Like, it looks like you could just be like, I just want this small piece. And even then, but what they seem to be saying is, on the product by product basis, these are going to be the cheapest you'll find. And so, yeah, you do get afraid. It's like, is it a race to the bottom? But I think at the end of the day, by offering multiple products cheaper than all those different point solutions out there, they know that that is going to help them attract customers. But then they're all also going to stay in the PostHog ecosystem, most likely, and then they'll buy all the PostHog products, or buy all of their products from PostHog, which will work out better for them at the end of the day. But I also think too, like, they're probably up against competitors that they know have prices that are just really inflated and are not reasonable, right? And I think that when you're a company like, hopefully, like PostHog, who is, maybe they're able to operate with, like, lower prices, and they don't want to, like, price gouge people. So yeah, I don't think it's as rare. I don't see a lot of comparison pages that compete on price, at least in B2B SaaS, but it's not to say it doesn't work.
What's interesting with this example you showed, and often we think about, like, competitive marketing versus A versus B, comparison pages, X or Y, and what they're doing here from a platform play is how we differentiate across a bunch of point solutions across likely a lot of different use cases, which is you're kind of consolidating, and it really requires you to be very, very, very tight on your differentiators and your messaging. And we actually just talked about this a little bit before we hit recording here, is when you're positioning a platform against a bunch of different point solutions, how do you think they've navigated talking at that level where you're probably getting less functionality because you're not doing direct comparisons as much as, like, platform versus this, without getting too broad? Because I think there is a difficulty with the all-in-one play when you're messaging, that you can kind of start to get very, very general. So what do you think they've done well here to balance that?
Yeah, I think what they've done well, and when you think about, in the case here of positioning a platform, is you can't really talk about individual features. Like, it's very hard to be like, come with our platform because we have this specific product feature, or we have this specific product. That's not really the reason why someone would want to go to the PostHog platform, versus, in this case here, when you're marketing a platform that's multiple products, and maybe it's also like, there could be multiple reasons why your platform is stronger. It could be that there's some ecosystem built in, right? And it's like being part of the Shopify platform makes it so that you also have access to all their their whole app marketplace and stuff like that. But in the case of them with PostHog, a few of the key things that they're differentiating on is, okay, what are the features of a platform? Not being product specific features per se, but it's like, what are the differentiating features of our platform and what we're offering here that would make this better than going with all these different point solutions. And so the features might be things like, one, price. Like, it's cheaper if you go and you buy it all in one here with PostHog. It could be like, in a sense here, they're saying PostHog as a company, like, their brand is a differentiating feature of working with them. The other one that they talk about is things like support, right? And then, like, their ability to, when it comes down to, like, yeah, their support being a big one. And at the end, talking about their, like, pace of shipping product and, like, their innovation, and then, like, their roadmap of what they're going to be building in addition. But I think these are things that are, yeah, it's like, if you're part of this ecosystem or if you're using this platform, they need to be higher level to, okay, what are the features? And I guess feature is the right word, but it's not technical or product specific things, but it's like, why would you want to use our platform versus everything else? And so, I think they've done a good job because, if anything, they've been able to identify what are the big reasons why someone would want to go with PostHog as a platform versus other point solutions. And as you can see, it's not technical features. It's things that are like less tangible in the product things. And so it's kind of hard to say like they've done it really well because they've focused on support and pricing and this. It's not to say like those are always the things you need to focus on for a platform, but it's clear like they know why people choose their platform versus the alternative. And then that's what they're focusing on.
It's so evident in here, like understand why they win according to their buyer. Because that like trustworthy partnership, I mean, I'll get a little meta here, but like it's something we've heard a lot in our own win-loss interviews at Klue. It's like, we see you as a trusted partner. And how do you actually share what trusted partner is without being fluffy? They show that honesty and partnership components in here are like throughout the page, like saying who PostHog isn't for is building trust, right? It's not, we're not selling to everyone. Here's who we're not good for is an incremental piece to building trust and being more of a partner, right? Same thing with like, we don't have all of XYZ features of all of our leading competitors in these point solutions, but we're building and we're going to get to stuff like having those little moments of admission, I think as well, is clear. It's a strategy throughout all of this page that they're hearing from their buyers. This like partnership component and trustworthy component are the reasons why they win, and they're leaning into it.
And even the support one, so support from actual technical people, it shows that they know who their buyer is. And in the who we're not for. So when they talk about who they're not for, or what is it? How's it worded specifically? It's like who doesn't PostHog work well for? And they call out the fact that it's when engineering teams can make their own decisions. So they are very clear on the fact that it's engineering teams buy PostHog, and when they can make decisions on what products they use, and it's not being mandated by some other department or someone who's like a high up and doesn't understand what the day-to-day of an engineer looks like. It's like when they can make that decision, they go with PostHog. And so they know who their buyer is. They know who's on their site evaluating their product. And so when they're talking about this support from actual technical people, they know that engineers care about, they don't want to have to get supported by someone who does not know as much as they do, right? They want someone who's also an engineer who like helped build this product. Or at the very least, it's someone who has an engineering background who's now a support. Like the fact that they call out our support people have engineering backgrounds, and the fact that they say even our salespeople can all write code, and their value is everybody codes. I think that's so cool. And I think that their target audience, that really works for them.
This is an incredible example. I think there's so many little nuggets throughout this page. We'll drop a link to it. And obviously, if you're listening to this episode, watch it on YouTube because we'll definitely pull up some of the specific examples that Oaks is talking about here. I want to segue hard with my example here because we're going completely different route. It's an oldie but a goodie, and it's a commercialized example. This is Burger King's Whopper Detour campaign. So this was in December 2018. Burger King launched their Whopper Detour campaign to boost mobile app subscribers and downloaders, and to take a little dig at their biggest competitor, McDonald's. So, TLDR on what the campaign was, essentially, they offered customers a Whopper for just 1 penny if they downloaded the new Burger King app and they ordered a Whopper within 600 feet of a McDonald's location. So they had these like geo-fenced in, and they would encourage them to go to that McDonald's and order the Whopper for 1 cent. So obviously there's a lot of things they kind of were able to catch on to here. It's pretty obscene. It's pretty bold in terms of directly talking about a competitor in your marketing assets. They made a lot of viral video content. Of course, there's a lot of their ads are literally like people going through the drive-through, like going to McDonald's, like, hey, can you get me a Whopper? And there's like this like weird disconnect. So what I found really interesting with this campaign to start with is just the boldness of directly calling out or talking about a competitor in your like very top of funnel marketing campaigns. These are ads that are going on TV. They're going on, they'll be putting a lot of paid spend behind these, like, and they're not shying away. You can see the McDonald's logo throughout. Like, it's very, very bold and direct, which again, when we talk about a lot of the folks listening here, B2B SaaS, there's often this coyness with talking about who you're competing with specifically and get very specific. In this case, they're like, screw it. Go to McDonald's, order a Whopper. It's going to be hilarious. And it got so much traction. So that's like the general framework of what they did. I'll share a little bit about the results and some of the things I think that are really interesting with this campaign and how it relates to some of our listeners here is, first of all, 3.5 billion impressions on social media from their ads, as well as user-generated content, people filming themselves going through the drive-thru, asking for the 1-cent Whopper. And there was a ton of like media coverage, like news outlets just kept pulling this up. Trolling is a great way to get eyeballs. So I can't even calculate how much 3.5 billion impressions would cost if you were to just put your paid spend to get 3.5 billion impressions. That's a lot of dineros. And then secondly, the campaign led to over 1 million app downloads, which I think is really, really important here. And within a few days, 1.5 million. The Burger King app went from number 686 in the App Store to number 1 within 48 hours. Those are big results from a fun, competitive marketing campaign. And so I think the interesting parts here is, one, calling out a direct competitor and doing it in a very absurd way to capture attention is great. Like, it's very jarring that they're being this direct with using McDonald's in all of their copy and how they're talking. And I think that's like, it's an interesting, we talked with Anthony Pieri a couple episodes ago about building your positioning and calling out a competitor. And it's actually a really strong way to do so when the competitor is the market leader or the benchmark brand, because that's how you can kind of like differentiate off of this. Now, I don't think they're necessarily coming in here and trying to differentiate the difference between a Whopper and a Big Mac, but they do play on the brand leader, the market perception, and literally putting out there like, yeah, this is kind of absurd. Hey, like, isn't this weird that we're completely building our whole campaign against a direct competitor? So I think that's like a really interesting example. And then the second thing is more like the business outcomes. It wasn't, again, to differentiate why a Whopper is healthier, tastier, or whatever. It was actually the business goal here was to drive app downloads. It was to get people onto the Burger King app because they know that I'm sure they have tons of spreadsheets that show like the customer value of someone that downloads an app. I would hazard a guess is like multiples and multiples higher than someone that just walks in the storefront and orders a Whopper. So if you get people downloading this app, we're likely going to get 10x revenue from these potential customers. And that's the goal. That's what their outcome was. It wasn't to differentiate. It was, we want to get a lot of downloads for our app, and we're going to actually do this absurd campaign directly going at a competitor to attract eyeballs to ultimately get us the downloads and the signups that we want, which is really unrelated to McDonald's, what they're trying to accomplish. And the results on that side too is, I think, mobile sales tripled during the promotion. So they're getting a ton of downloads, they're getting a ton of signups, and that's actually also translating into dollars and cents. So I think that is the really cool thing, is using competitors as a means to achieve other business objectives rather than just like why we're better.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I think, like, to your point, the goal was to generate downloads of their app. But it's cool that, they used for this campaign in particular, it's not only that they were going out and just finding, anyone, me and you off the street. People, who knows? Maybe we're Wendy's people, right? Like, it's not that they were going out looking for anyone to download their app. They were like, we want to take people who normally would buy a Big Mac, and we want them to now download our app, right? And it was like very targeted approach to who they wanted to be that increase in app downloads. And I'm sure it caught on with other people as well. But it's a cool example of like, their goal is to, yes, get downloads of their app. Ultimately, their goal is to also try to convert people who were normally going to buy McDonald's stuff to now go get the Burger King app and to start buying Burger King, which is like a really cool, there's kind of like multiple layers to it. But yeah, I love the other thing that was sticking out to me with this campaign and the whole kind of this like proximity to a big McDonald's when you had to do it. It's like when you look at today in say like B2B SaaS, for example, a lot of times like, where do people promote their comparison pages? It's like they'll do it on Google, for example, and they'll pay for competitive keywords. And when someone goes and searches, right, like, I don't know, when someone goes and searches product, say like Basecamp, they'll have like a ClickUp ad. Like ClickUp will have their comparison page and they'll pay for that paid spot. And that's where they'll promote the comparison page. And it's interesting because like who are they looking for? They're looking for people who are actively looking to buy that type of software. And they're looking for people who are interested in Basecamp, for example, right? And then they're saying, hey, come and look at ClickUp. And it's kind of like similar where with this campaign, they were saying, hey, we want people who would normally or are maybe looking to go and get a Big Mac. And we want them now. It's like, they're hungry, they're about to go and buy a burger. Let's get them to actually download our app. And then we can get them over here to buy a Whopper for 99 cents. It's like so cool. Or a cent.
Yeah, it's a great example. And I love as well, what I like is I think it serves a lot of purpose. Like the benefits kind of work across many avenues here. Obviously the signups, the reach, like a marketing campaign that gets that much reach, regardless of just like any kind of brand campaign, that would be deemed successful. And doing it through this way of physical marketing, still, like I think everything is so digital now that they do this thing that's like boots on the ground campaign that then translates onto social. It translates into app downloads, but it all starts with like physical presence. Like that's the crux of the campaign, is to be physically 600 feet within McDonald's to be a part of it. And that's kind of what you mentioned, like this real IRL version of the paid competitive keyword is like, hey, if you're in proximity here, you're part of this campaign. We're targeting you, which is so awesome. Like it's so funny.
Yeah. And it would only work if you are doing this either towards, in the case of Burger King versus McDonald's is massive. Burger King's also massive. But if Burger King went and did this campaign to like every mom and pop burger shop, it would not go over well. People would not like it. So it's also a good lesson of, you wouldn't want to reverse this and try this against other competitors that are challengers of you. It only really works if you're going after like the big one.
That's such a great call out, because they managed to make themselves look like the relatable company, even though they're a multi-billion dollar company as well. But when you go after the brand, like you can always punch up. No one wants to see you punch down. You can always punch up. And again, it does harken back to that episode when we talked with Anthony Pieri about helping this company, Freckle, build their positioning as the easier to use version of Klue is like build off of this pillar that everyone knows and recognizes, and then find your area. So I think there's always an opportunity to punch up. And yeah, don't be doing this to mom and pop stores. That would be, I wonder what would have happened. I mean, I still want a 1 cent Whopper.
Yeah, it is a really cool campaign. The one thing that I found myself, I was like, it'd be cool if they could find people who were near a McDonald's and then somehow ping them with the offer.
Yeah.
The whole idea of like, I got to see this ad, then I got to go to McDonald's, and then I got to get the no 1 cent, and then I got to go to a Burger King. That was a lot of driving around for me if I was in someone's shoes, and I was like, maybe I missed something about it but who knows? Maybe like obviously it worked, but I was like, it'd be even cooler if they were able to find people as they were on their way into a McDonald's. But I do remember they had billboards and stuff right outside McDonald's, so that's probably how they did it.
They also had these like frames these like Burger King Detour frames that would be perfectly framed, like the McDonald's location would be in that frame of this physical location as well.
Right.
But I think like the utility probably could have been a slightly smoother as well.
But I think that it's also cool too. Like maybe this campaign was like they really focused on like, I don't know, like highly populated kind of like cities where there's a lot of foot traffic. And so people are walking by McDonald's, and I'm sure the closest Burger King could buy an ad next to that McDonald's with that frame made sense. And then all these people would be like, oh, on their way to McDonald's would see it. That would be pretty cool.
I'm going to jump in as producer here. After doing some research, they actually had it where like it was geo-fenced. So if you were within however many feet, you'd get a notification on your phone.
Awesome.
If you had the Burger King app. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, so it would go like if you're near, like, so you could, to what you're saying, like it would go 600 feet. If you're within however many feet, you'd get a ping, and then so you wouldn't have to see the ad before.
So okay, so if you had the Burger King app, yeah, if you see this on TV and then you have like the Burger King, gets you to download the Burger King app, and then you're out walking around, and then you automatically get pinged, and it says, "Hey, here's your 1 cent Whopper," as you're about to walk into a McDonald's. That's sad.
That obviously doesn't increase downloads, but like for the people that already had it downloaded, you'd get a notification. So activity in the app was going up too.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So 2 very, very different competitive marketing examples. I love that we got to go through these, Oaks. I think we should do this more regularly. I think some of these examples are so fun to go through. The way you explain these 2, breaking down the tactics, there's so much that people can take from this. So I love this. If you're keen, I think we should do more of these.
Let's do it.
They love it.
Yeah. And if people like examples, they should go subscribe to PMM Files.
They absolutely should. Some of the best product marketing examples out there. Thanks so much for joining us, Oaks. We'll do this again, and we will catch everyone else next week.